Today we're talking about the teardown of this Gen Fuzz from 1968. What it does, how it does it, and how we can improve it. Okay, so the Gen Fuzz. It's a stage 3 transistor, silicon transistor, Mark II tone bender style circuit. Okay, it's in a Mark II tone bender box or a Vox tone bender, whatever you like. Very popular enclosure, end of the 60s, early 70s. This, I believe, is 1968. I will date the pots at some point. My aim is to first of all restore this to reliable and clean condition. I don't want to take away all its mojo, so I'm not quite sure how I'm going to neutralize the corrosion, but that's one of the things that I want to do, is kind of stop it where it is, really. Also need to tidy up the inside a little bit. It's not too bad, but you know, just do a few bits and pieces on the inside. Let's have a look at the inside. Okay, so there we are. The wiring is haphazard, but it's, you know, it's very, very original. There we go. I'll do some better shots of this at some point. It's had a new input jack. That's definitely the new one. That's the original. I think it's probably had a new switch as well. I've never seen them with a black switch before. And the rest of it is pretty dramatic, really. It's got, yeah, kind of the standard of the day. Ceramic capacitors all the way through, carbon resistors. But if you notice, it also has two clipping diodes here, which are not a kind of a usual thing on fuzzes. And I'm inclined, when I breadboard this out, to experiment with actually taking those out of the circuit and see if what a difference it makes. Let's have a listen to it as it stands. Nothing changed. Okay, so my Monty's 62 loaded vintage vibe, classic vibe strap, lovely. Into my, don't know if you can see it there, just literally just there. It's my the amp I test everything on is my old orange Tolex Roland Cube. Yes, transistor. But my ears know it. Okay, so bit of hiss. And that's the lowest. That's the attack all the way down. Ridiculously. Okay, painfully bright. So the fuzz all the way. So that's on the neck. So noisy, quite a nice smooth fuzz though. That's full on the attack, but it's just really bright, almost like a treble boostery fuzz. But there's some nice overtones there. I don't know whether that's picking up, but that's quite a lot of. There's quite a lot of hiss there. Yeah. Yeah, that's bright. Okay. So, given that it seems to be quite a nice smooth fuzz, it just probably needs the biasing. Sounds okay. We could maybe try swinging it up and down, see if it gets a bit crumblier or whatever, but the biasing seems to be about right. The tonality, however, is a long way off from modern standards. You know, fuzzes were at the time considered to be quite a scratchy kind of thing, but as they've evolved, they've become, you know, a slightly different thing. Now, there is a case for keeping this completely original, and I understand that. However, this is not a super sought after unit. If it was a, you know, a known unit, had a particular serial number, a particular user, you know, particular history, I'll say particular again, then it would be worth kind of thinking, shall I keep it completely original? But I don't think this is the unit to do that. I want to keep it as original as possible, but I also want to make it usable in the modern day. So that means probably changing some parts of the circuit, but not all of them, you know, minimal amounts, just to get the kind of the tone that I want. I'm not going to dive in and can start hacking about and experimenting. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take the this circuit and reproduce it on a breadboard first of all, exactly as it is here. First of all, to see if that is actually what's causing the high-pitched tone, and if the breadboard sounds the same as this, then I know this is functioning fairly well. If, however, there's a drastic difference, I know that there's something wrong with some of the components, and they will need pulling and measuring. Anyway, so let's recap. It's 3 transistor silicon fuzz from 1968, I believe. Pretty much all original. I'm going to breadboard the circuit and compare the two. If they sound the same, then I know there's nothing wrong with this unit. If they sound drastically different, then I need to get in and change something in this unit anyway. I will also use the breadboard to tweak. I'm not sure about the clipping diodes in this. I will probably try and build a unit without the clipping diodes. I think that might be introducing the really high-end stuff. Let's start with the teardown and start assessing some of the circuit. First thing I want to do is have a look at the pots, see if we can date the manufacturer. I mean, all this is going to come apart, and I want to be able to clean the enclosure and just tidy it up so it's not so flaky anymore. So because it does make a mess, it leaves, you know, a trail behind. Doesn't want to come undone. There we go. Oh, that's been drilled out, that other one. So this is where we start to see, you know, bodges. Somebody's not had the right size enclosure, so they've actually drilled the right size socket, so they've drilled that one to make it bigger. Yeah, it is what it is. That's vintage enclosures for you. Let's just take these knobs off, which I love, by the way. They are 100% staying. Come apart for this. I don't think these pots have been apart since it was. Look at the grime around that. Okay, so we are getting there. We just need the I don't even think that's very tight, actually. No, it's only hand tight. So, so there we go. There's the enclosure, all stripped, and there we have the circuit. That I should be washing and just generally giving a whole load of TLC. We'll do that later. Right, for the time being, first thing I want to do is right. Let's have a look. So the Fuzz pot, 1KA. Okay, the level is 47K audio. That's pretty low for level. That might be why it's quite scratchy. It's a classic 60s one-sided circuit board. Everything looks in good condition there. Yeah, I'm happy with that. What I'm going to do, I have a couple of circuit schematics that I'm going to compare this to and just work out which one it is. It says here this is the 280.154 version or part number. I'm going to just have a little brain time with this, and I will be right back. Okay, so I've gone through and traced out the unit, physically looking at it and copying it through, and then just wanted to check that there were any components. I'm going to move this camera, hope you're not seasick. That's better. Then just wanted to check that there hadn't been any mistakes in production, because this was the late 60s, and QC across companies was not consistent. There weren't any standards to be adhered to. So and there's one component which could have an effect, which I've heard on various forums and bits and pieces. I've heard people saying that either there's mistakes on the traced schematic, or their unit is different in one place, and that one place could have an effect on the amount of brittle top end. So I've breadboarded the circuit. I set it out exactly as this schematic, which I double checked against the what I'd actually got in the real unit. If you are looking at building a circuit or breadboarding anything, what I would say is your first point is to build it exactly as it says on the schematic or as it is on the circuit. Start, that is your baseline, okay, and then do your mods. So I built it up, and it sounded different. I thought it had more potential for a great sounding fuzz, Mark II tone bender, kind of super fuzzy kind of thing. Is the schematic is ridiculously close to those. So let me go over what I've done. Here I have a handy schematic. Okay, so all of the tone capacitors were quite low. They're all a 10 nanofarad. I swapped them out for, I put them up to, these two up to 100 nanofarad, and then I've crept this one up until it is a 4.7 microfarad. Okay, so a big one on the front. I've kept this 1 meg. I've also put a 47 nanofarad capacitor from the input to ground. Okay, so that has cut off a lot of hiss going into the circuit and being amplified. Okay, so you can do that anywhere along the circuit to cut down hiss, but if you've got hiss on, if it's pulling hiss because it's loading the pickups, then yeah, just stop it at source basically. So that's that. This is a very, very basic boost stroke kind of buffery-ish thing. There's not a lot to be done there, so I left that pretty much as is. This one was changed here for 100 nanofarads. Kept that the same. That is basically, so you're getting a bunch of saturation in this, and then without this resistor it's too loud. Okay, it's not the volume and gain are different. Okay, so there's too much volume going into this, so that just cuts that down so that it still handles it in a musical way. So that works well. So that's the boost section. Then you've got the kind of fuzz face part of the circuit. Now, there's a few interesting little bits and pieces that aren't fuzz facey. Let's immediately assume these are gone. I'm not putting these clipping diodes in. Now, in a fuzz face, the output leaves. There's also a 330 R, okay, resistor up here, and then this junction is actually moved up here. It comes out above the biasing resistor. Now, I think what they've done is they've put that in directly off the collector of Q3, because these clipping diodes will reduce the volume quite dramatically, because there's a shitload of volume comes out of there. Okay, so I've got rid of the clipping diodes, so I needed to reduce the volume a little bit. Move this up to here. It was still quite loud, so I then dropped the 330R resistor in as per the fuzz face, and as we said on a previous episode, that creates a voltage divider, and it dramatically reduces the volume without affecting your biasing on the 9 volt too much. So I did that. So now the output is from there. Okay. The attack and the fuzz have stayed the same. This is an interesting little kind of thing. It just reduces the gain, and I'm not quite sure why. I've left it. I've taken it out. I've got rid of that because I think they were looking for a different thing to me, to be honest. Everything else. This Miller capacitor is quite high. The tone part of the circuit is awful. I mean, you know, I guess they were going for a particular thing. That's what it is. So what they've done, if they've made it really scratchy with these very low capacitors, and then they've tried to cut that scratchiness down by putting a Miller capacitor on, a very high Miller capacitor on Q3, which is kind of robbing Peter to pay Paul. You're creating a problem and then trying to solve the problem, as opposed to why not make the problem in the first place. So this Miller capacitor I've reduced, and I haven't really, at the moment, that's kind of fine tuning, so I haven't really settled on the value for that yet. Other than that, I haven't really settled on a value for the bias, the Q3 bias yet. That will take a little time, but I'm going to build up this circuit and then just try out a few different components in these two positions, just to see, you know, where the fine tuning kind of comes to. That's that very simple circuit. Right, let's have a listen. So we've got my Squire, my Monty 62 equipped Squire Classic Vibe into my Tweed Deluxe. on about half. Volume down. That's a volume about half, sorry, fuzz about half. So that's on the neck. So yeah, bit noisy because it's on a breadboard, but a huge improvement. Thank you so much for joining me this week. I'll be doing the same next week, where I'll be taking the mods that I've tried out on the breadboard and applying those to the circuit board. If you haven't subscribed, please feel free to hit that button and hit the bell icon as well for your notifications. Thank you very much. My name's Marcus. You've been watching the Friday Finish. And remember, keep it fuzzy.